Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Let's take a look and see what is going on with Bitcoin. So, we had a major bearish flip overnight, it looks like. And this is kind of what, I wasn't really expecting this because I was, expecting for us to stay above the 4 hour, but I knew that if we lost that, then more than likely this would be a bearish week. So what we can see here is, obviously Monday we had our high for the week. Tuesday starting to drop below the weekly open, right? We basically closed below it, right? And then now Wednesday, we're just skyrocketing down. Um, really we have to consider that now this is a bearish week in my opinion. We can get some small bounces like I normally say, but um, the more than likely the bottom won't be in until Thursday or Friday. So that being said, let's look at the 12 hour. So the 12 hour is getting a slight bounce off of the 21 MA. It's 21 MA. We did lose 62,109, so there's a decent chance that we're going to probably visit, 61,124. I would honestly expect for us to probably pull from this down here, maybe. Where does this line up? So this lines up right at this 59,702. Um, let's keep it. So I would keep 59,702 on the radar as well as where does this line up? This lines up right here, so that's about 60,000. So somewhere between 60,000, 622 and 59,702 is where I'm targeting. That's if we don't take out this double bottom right here, which there's a good chance that we may. But I would be targeting somewhere in this area, even that 6189 that we've, flipped as resistance or sorry, support. Um, so somewhere in between here, I would be targeting, okay? Taking a look at the 4 hour, so the 4 hour basically lost its 200. We're getting that 21 to curve over. Really not a good sign at all. So this tells me that there's, we get that death cross, where the 21 crosses over that 200. Um, it's going to look nasty. It's going to get real nasty down here. So if anything, ideally what we would want to see if we were still any what bullish or have any sort of bullish idea is we'd have to get a bounce, from the one of these in between this area sooner rather than later, and then have it really skyrocket back up and get above that 200 MA. If it doesn't do that, this is going to be some trouble, and we're just going to probably roll over like we have been doing, like here. Was an example we just straight up rolled over, so that's a decent play as well that we might see. Um, so overall, I mean, my bias is to flip bearish, right? On the meso, on the macro. Let's take a look at the micro though and see, 1 hour we're barely staying above that 200 MA, but the 4 hour is obviously going to take precedence over that. The 15 minute, we're starting to get that continuation downward. We have a bear flag here. So you got to assume, right, that we're going to keep going lower until we don't, right? We don't drag the 21 with us anymore. And right now, 21's following price action. So if I were to invert this, right, you would play this bullishly. You would say, oh, this is a bull flag, right? Something like this. And you would say this is an ascending triangle, and this usually breaks up. So you'd have to expect that we're going to keep making these or making something like this, these bear flags, until we don't anymore, right? This takes us into that 60 range that I was talking about. So we have to assume that that's what we're doing until, like I said, we don't do it anymore. Let's go ahead and take a look though at our liquidity. Again, guys, remember, between 6622 and 59702, let's see kind of where that lines up, okay? So taking a look at our liquidity here. All right. So you can see that, that really lines up with this yellow area. 60,000, 60,000, what is it? 60,900 to 60,600. So that really aligns with that level that I was talking about. I think it was like 60,638 if I remember correctly. Let me see. 622. So very close to where we could potentially get a bounce. Worst case scenario, we get into that 59 range, which is also part of that, So you can see kind of the 4 hour, at least where the 25x is concerned, this is kind of where you could be, bottoming potentially, right? to get a small bounce or a medium-sized bounce. Okay, I don't know if we're going to get all the way up here, but you could potentially get a bounce up to here at least to retest some support areas. Okay, taking a look now at our 1 hour. Um, let's see if that shows the same thing. So the 1 hour is kind of showing the exact same thing. Let me see. Yeah, 60,006. Down to 60,003. Let's see. Yeah, even further to 59,000. So anywhere in between here, I would think that we'd have some sort of relief, and if it's not, then it would have to be some sort of consolidation before relief. So, for any of those that shorted the top, congratulations. That was definitely more on the risky side because we were above that 4 hour 200 MA, but congrats if you made that play. Let's go into the 15 minute and take a look here. So the 15 minute, yeah, it's still, same as with the 1 hour or the 4 hour, it's telling us that we could take out all of this down to that 59 area. This is showing down to 60,976 to potentially 60,400. So, honestly, I'm expecting, 60,006, 60,004, worst case scenario down into the 59s where we're bottoming out for at least for now, before we build up more, long liquidity. But that should provide some sort of at least small relief for right now. Not that it's going to even get back and test weekly open, but I would say that should, like I said, provide some sort of small relief at least for now. 5 minutes showing you the same thing. You got your trend diff on the hourly at a -3, so it's at the max on trend diff in a bearish sentiment. So anyways, guys, that is what I'm seeing for right now. It does look like we are going to have a bearish week. If you do take a long, don't, take it and expect for us to just skyrocket back up. It's going to be probably, a dead cat bounce of some sort. You could get maybe a, few thousand dollar move off of it, depending on where this bottoms. But I am of the opinion as of right now that we're not going to come back up and test weekly open at 63,602. So anywhere below 63,602 we could probably test, but I'm of the opinion that this won't be revisited this week, this area. Okay. All right, let's finally take a look at our simple map here. So going into the simple map. All right, so in the simple map, it looks like we have, unfortunately on the smaller time frames, your 5, your 15, your 1 hour, we have a lot more liquidity right below us, right? So all of this, um, rather than right above us, So you do have some 100x, you do have some 50x, but more so you have, a bigger combination of all of the different pools of liquidity to the downside, right next to us. So basically flipped from last night in the evening. So that's interesting. Again, I would target probably 60, somewhere in here, the 60,600, 60,002 area. We could even get down up right to here, maybe. This could kind of roll over to 60,150, it looks like, before we kind of have another spike of liquidity. So it could kind of roll like a ball down here and kind of end up right around here. Um, that's what I'm seeing for the smaller time frames, and then for the swing time frames, your 4 hour, your daily. So for those, you have your 25x right below us, and that's not a good sign. You don't really have, if I can kind of zoom in a little bit here, you don't have a lot of 25x or any liquidity in general to really bring you back up to 63, which is not a great sign. We just took that out as it is. So it really does tell us that on the bigger time frames, it wants to go lower. How much lower? That's we don't know yet, but at least probably I would say to maybe 60,003, like right up to here, before we kind of have some resistance or support, I should say, right around here at 60,000 even. So everything's indicating that we are going to get a bounce, like I said, within that 59. Let's pull it up again. So I said between 59,702 and 60,622. So this is our range right here that I'm looking for there to be a bounce off of. Okay. All right, guys, that is what I have for you this morning. As usual, if you guys ever wanted to utilize trading difference tools, and like you can see in my videos, it very much helps you with your trades and seeing where price is going, where it might be stopping at, where it could be bouncing from. Feel free to use my code Sean, tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean, and you can claim your 10% discount off of that. All right, guys, that's all I have for right now. I will be back later on today. Take care and have a wonderful day.